everyone, it's Hayes, and in today's video we're going to be doing the commentary / analysis for episode 11 of season 5, Deflagration. I don't know, I'm not planning on saying that word ever again, so don't bother correcting me in the comments because we're just not doing it. Isn't this cute, by the way? Anyway, before I go any further, I'm about to spoil the whole episode for you. So if you haven't already seen it, I will try and leave some links down below to where you can go and watch it, but I make no promises because this episode was even tricky for me to find this morning, okay? So it was difficult for me to find to watch, and by the time, like a couple of hours going past by the time uploading the video, more stuff will be taken down for copyright, so I will try, but I make zero promises. And also, I know a lot of you are waiting to watch Perfection until you've seen this episode, and I am gonna touch slightly on Perfection, not gonna talk about it loads. I'm not by any means gonna spoil the whole episode for you, but I would maybe recommend, if you don't want to be spoiled at all, I'm only going to mention it briefly, but I would maybe recommend also watching Perfection before you watch this video. And also, as always, I haven't read the show Bible or seen any of the leaks. I don't know what's going on with the rest of the show, so in this video I am going to end up speculating a bit about the show, and I don't want to know if I'm right, if I'm wrong, what happens instead. I don't want to know the amount of comments I've got this past week where people have been like, oh, I'm sorry, but this happens. Just because you start the comment with, oh, I'm sorry, doesn't mean you then get to go ahead and tell me a leak. Just stop. No means no. I don't understand people. Anyway, so this episode, I filmed a reaction video. I cried after I started screaming and had to take a 5-minute break. The part I cried at was the song. It wasn't happy tears, it was why. Why are they doing this to me? I'm viewing it as a personal attack. Overall, I would rate the episode a 9 out of 10. I thought it was pretty solid, I thought it was pretty good, and I think it was a pretty good like two-parter, transmission. I do kind of see the part 1, part 2 episodes as kind of like one big longer episode, and I do think it works as like one long 40-minute episode, to be honest, but I didn't watch Transmission right before it, so maybe I'll change my mind on that if I watch them, you know, back to back. I rewatched Transmission last night and I watched episode 11 this morning, so I saw them fairly close together, you know. So yeah, 9 out of 10. I thought it was pretty good. I thought the pacing was really good, the plot of the episode amazing, just some of the character motivations and some of the stuff they did just kind of confused me, which we're going to get into pretty quickly. It's literally the first scene with Adrian where I'm going to talk about it. But so, let's get into it now. So, Alia and Zoe kind of flirting with her when they're on the news. I kind of liked it. I'm pretty sure Zoe has absolutely zero feeling for Alia. I mean, Zoe and Alia really barely talk in the show. Not that obviously Zoe knows it's Alia anyway, but I thought it was super cute, and I'm kind of sad we're not going to get to see any more of it. And I was like, okay. Alright, but then yeah, this next scene with Adrian, with basically his face, some of the facial expressions were just basically kind of confusing me. Like I said, I rewatched Transmission, and don't get me wrong, I understand in Transmission that when Adrian's been to Marinette's, he finds out that yeah, she loved him, but that like she doesn't see a way for them to be together. He's very upset, and so is she, and he almost gets akumatized because of it. And then Plag rocks up and he's like, hey! Give me a ring, I'm leaving. And he's really not okay, but then suddenly he is okay because he's like, oh, that means I get a chance with Marinette, I can go and see if she's okay and stuff like that. And Transmission ended with him, in my opinion, being quite happy. He started off quite sad in Transmission, but he ended up pretty happy, just from what I'd observed in the episode. That was just my interpretation of his emotions, but I was obviously wrong because he seems, again, quite depressed. And don't get me wrong, I didn't expect him to be completely okay with Plag leaving, because Plag really symbolises the freedom that Adrian craves. Like, his favourite thing is going to school, his dad understands that, and as a result, anytime Adrian does do something wrong, or even not something wrong, just something Gabriel doesn't like, because it's the way Gabriel is as a person, he threatens to take away, like, oh, you're not allowed to come to school, like in Illusion, like in The Collector, because he knows how much Adrian truly values that. So obviously Plag was another bit of freedom that previously he could, you know, even if his dad said you can't go to school anymore, Adrian would be like, well, okay, it's fine, I can just jump out that window and do whatever I want with Plag. So don't get me wrong, I understand why he was still depressed, and obviously it showed how Plag was missing when he goes to the football table or the foosball table. He puts the ball and he just scores a goal straight away. He looks so sad, and it's something like we've been shown before, I'm pretty sure, that him and Plag play with it together, but it was just a bit like, I don't know, I think it's more of the fault of transmission rather than this episode, because Adrian seemed completely fine. So even though that is an issue I do have with transmission, how they are both completely fine within like 2 seconds of their Kwame's leaving, I'm like, you should be a bit more upset. So in a way I'm kind of glad Adrian was more upset, but also at the same time that is one thing I do not feel gels well together. I'm pretty sure I said in my transmission commentary that I think it actually would have been a really good idea that Adrian should have been akumatized in episode 10, and now I've seen episode 11. I think it would have worked really well, and it would still add up to him being kind of sad after the akumatization. Not everyone's completely happy after they've finished being akumatized. For example, in Volpina, Lila still isn't very happy with Ladybug after she's been de-akumatized. So I feel that if Adrian was akumatized, like Gabriel's plan in that episode is, he doesn't go and see Marinette, because really he doesn't really have that much of a reason to in transmission. If he was akumatized due to this relationship, or non-relationship, I think that could have been a really strong episode, because transmission was okay, to be honest. It wasn't that good. I think episode 11 was definitely stronger, which does seem to be the case with a lot of the 1 part 2 parts. The part 2 tends to be stronger. I feel like the only time they were really equal is probably Risk and Strike Back. I think the only time part 1 has been better was Style Queen over Queen Wasp. Plus as well, like, Adrian and Marinette's relationship, which is, it's kind of confusing me as well, because so obviously I was going into this episode having seen Perfection, and in that episode, to me anyway, they're dating. So like, for example, the song Adrian sings to Marinette, he tells her he loves her. Why would he be singing her that song if they weren't dating? So I had assumed every single time I've seen Perfection that in episode 11 they get together properly. But in this episode, that doesn't happen. The love square this season has just been so strange. It's just kind of all over the place and doesn't really make sense, and as someone who watches the show for the love square, I am a little bit disappointed about it, to be honest, but there's not really much I can do about it apart from complain. But like what we got in transmission, it showed there was some progression between Adrian and Marinette, but then this episode kind of opened as if there had been like no progression, but then they like go on a date in the cafeteria, so there was some progression. It was just very conflicting. I didn't really understand, so I still stand by like my idea that it would have been better for Adrian to have been akumatized in episode 10, because he would have been akumatized without any danger of getting the Miraculous off him, and maybe his dad would no longer suspect him or whatever, if he did suspect him, because he suspected him Godzilla and stuff. But he could still be sad about Marinette, because Marinette maybe ultimately couldn't be there for him, and they have some sort of conversation again. I don't know, it needs a bit more working on. I'm probably going to do a video on it actually, but it was just a bit like, huh? The love square was, I mean, yeah, don't get me wrong, I'm enjoying it because it's cute and I think it's sweet, but at the same time it's like, it's a bit all over the place. You know what I mean? Because transmission, they seem to really get somewhere with each other, but then Adrian's kind of sad about it, and I'm like, alright. But then they go on the date in the cafeteria. It was it's very strange. The love square overall has been very strange this season. So one thing that was definitely missing from transmission was the Plag and Zoe interaction. I know I wasn't the only person to have missed it. I saw loads of comments on my videos and other people's videos saying they wanted it, and because I kind of view part 1 and part 2 as like one longer episode, I'm glad it was in this second half of it, because they really need it. And overall their relationship was amazing. Plag obviously has a knack for being placed with people who don't have the best home lives. Apparently he just like spots them, he knows, he's like, you, I know your family hates you, you're gonna be the new girl. He just seems to know. I thought it was great, and Ali's interaction with Tiki was wonderful too. But then Marinette comes over, and again the way she kind of talks about Adrian in the scene is also a bit strange. I understand Marinette doesn't quite understand love and relationships that well, which is fine, but she kind of played it off as if nothing had happened, and I was like, that's the most you've ever got anywhere with anyone romantically in your life, probably. Why are you playing it off as if nothing happened? It was, in my mind anyway, a breakthrough for their relationship especially in terms of Adrian figuring out that Marinette's just nervous and this is how she needs to communicate, basically. So it was just, like, maybe it's my problem and I'm just putting too much emphasis on transmission, but to me, when I watched the episode and when I've rewatched it since, that was a huge breakthrough in their relationship, where Adrian finally realises that Marinette's just nervous. She never hated him, she never disliked him, she's just nervous, which I understand completely because I also equally get nervous around people I have feelings for, you know what I mean? So yeah, I don't get it. And like previously she's been able to talk to Alia about Adrian and like whatever's happened between... Honestly, at this rate, it kind of feels like they wrote the season, at least where the love square is concerned, in the order we've seen the episodes so far. Where usually for this, usually for a TV show, I would recommend, or like a novel or a film or whatever, writing it in, you know, the order that it happens. And if you want to change up the structure and move things around and do things in flashbacks afterwards, you totally can. But at first, I would recommend writing it in order and then moving it around once you're happy with how everything develops. The development of the love square, it's all over the place. It doesn't even make complete sense, to be honest. So then we talk about the song. So when, like, the first bit was Gabriel with a little shoulder, and then we heard the song, I immediately started shouting no. I sounded like that little clip of Michael Scott from The Office.
No! God, please, no! No! No!
Then I started crying. I had to take a break during the song. I went to the bathroom to go and calm down and try and sort out my face because all the eyeshadow from under my eye has rubbed off, some of the mascara came off, so I looked like a mess for a few minutes. But anyway, yeah, it was cringy, super cringy. I am not sure I'm ready to listen to it in English whenever that comes out. The dancing animation, you know I'm not one to talk about animation in the show because I don't often know anything about it, but I mean, I think otherwise the quality, like the visual quality of the animation, was pretty good in this episode as far as I was aware, but the actual movements for the dancing, they just look so janky. So yeah, so as cringy as it was, I do understand why it was in this episode, because the rest of the episode with taking the Miraculouses and stuff, it is quite a serious episode. Kind of like the first half of this episode up until basically after the song is a lot more light-hearted, everything's kind of normal, where Alia and Zoe are getting used to being the new holders, Adrian and Marinette are getting used to not being the holders and possibly maybe being together, but then the second half obviously a lot darker because Gabriel Babes, he really goes for it and tries pretty hard to get the Miraculouses. So it's kind of like split in two, where the first half of the episode has a happier tone, more fun tone, and the second half is obviously like, he might win sort of thing. So I do understand why the song was in there, but it didn't mean it wasn't cringy. But then Natalie, she's just like, what are you doing? And he's like, do you smell that? And she's like, have you made your rubbish pancakes again? And he's like, no, come with me. And then he dances with her. Then he tells her what's happened and he like slides into the lair, like he stood right in front of the portrait, then he slides backwards onto the podium to go down. Or up, whichever way he went. I put on Twitter before that I think this is a single thing that has traumatised me the most from the whole show. Not Strike Back, not Cat Blank, not Ephemeral. This song. Dear God. Anyway, up in his lair, Raw, absolutely savage. He was like, yeah, like, you're gonna win this time, you got a good point, like, you always lose. So thank you, Raw. And he's like, that's a bit rude. And I was just like, Gabriel, you've been absolutely horrible to them. Do you think Raw's gonna be nice to you? What? No! You idiot. However, Gabriel, sorry for calling you an idiot, because your plan was absolutely solid. Obviously he didn't end up winning, but I thought it was executed to pretty much perfection. However, it was also incredibly creepy. So they're in the boiler room, my favourite place. They're having like some sort of wake for Ladybug and Cat Noir, and Gabriel Babes is just there watching it all like, yeah, very interesting, very interesting. So creepy. And then again the cafeteria following him around, and then he's just waiting in a toilet cubicle for Alia because he just knew which one she'd go in apparently. He's just like, yeah, I know. Bit strange, but okay, Gabriel Babes. But anyway, back to the wake in the boiler room. The Scarab blog, renaming it from the Lady blog to the Scarab blog. Alia, I understand why you have to do this, and I am a narcissist, so I understand. But not even I am that narcissistic. Like, come on, be like, oh, I don't have time, Nina, you're gonna have to run it for me. Or Milen, you're gonna have to run it for me. You know what I mean? That was hilarious, but I really, really loved the little Adrianette moment. This moment made sense out of all the Adrianette in the episode. I think this one made the most sense. How Adrian's like, I hope Ladybug's okay, and she's like, I hope Cat Noir's okay, and I think Adrian was actually quite relieved to know that Marinette didn't completely hate Cat Noir, obviously, after the events of episode 9, Elation. So that moment really made sense to me. He was really happy to know that she still cared about Cat Noir, him, in some degree, and he held her hand. Love that part, love that part. That part was adorable and actually made sense considering the episodes that went before it. But then Nina, right at the end of the scene, he's like, we did a really good job as Rena Rouge and Carapace. How come we didn't get picked? It's because you keep telling everyone everything, Nino. That's why. Do you really think you were going to be the new cat holder or the new Ladybug holder? You tell everyone. You text everyone. You'd probably take out advertising space on a building to let everyone know it was you. God, of course it wasn't going to be you, Nino. He's delusional. I love him, but you're delusional. So now let's move on to the cafeteria scene, and Zoe needs to seek some help for her camembert addiction. My God, why do they just have that much cheese in the cafeteria? Is this a French thing? They just have loads of cheese in the cafeteria? Like, I recently went on holiday to Venice in January. Lovely. And obviously, like, the breakfast they had at the hotel is more continental European than British European. British European is very different to continental European. If you're European, you'll understand. And like, they have cheese on offer at breakfast, which is not really something you'd get in Britain for breakfast at a hotel. Like, if you want cheese and you're at home, yeah, sure, go get cheese. Like, I probably had cheese for breakfast before, but it's not usually something they have on offer at breakfasts and at hotels here, which is completely normal. So like, is this like a normal French thing to have cheese at school cafeterias at lunch? I'm just curious to know. But it was just, you know, funny seeing Zoe with this plate piled high with cheese, and I thought the date was absolutely super cute. And I did actually kind of like how the class, I feel like the trailer made it look like it was really intrusive and all staring at them, but I don't think it was as constant as the trailer was trying to suggest it was. It was just like you know, Milen like gave a little cheer and Zoe and Alia were smiling. I thought it was quite nice them being there to support her, to be honest, and it does kind of make the other episodes, for example like Imperfection, when the rest of them are trying to plan to get them together, because it, like, of Marinette's anxiety, but also at the same time, I said this in other commentary videos, if you just let them get together, they'll do it in their own time. Don't rush them, but I don't think it was that bad of a thing now. However, another thing that confused me, hence why this episode isn't a full 10 out of 10, is the thing with Lila and Chloe. Like, the whole plan that they come together with at the end of Penultime and they start executing in Risk is they want Marinette to stay away from Adrian. So then why didn't, first of all, Chloe even, you know, clock that Marinette and Adrian were on a date, who were quite obviously on a date? There's like a flyer on the table and a nice tablecloth. They weren't just having lunch together, they were on a lunch date. So why didn't, first of all, Chloe clock it? And second of all, why did Lila make a passing comment about it as if it didn't bother her in the slightest, when we know it does? And the two of you formed an alliance together specifically against Marinette getting to be with Adrian. Again, the math isn't mathing, basically. You know what I mean? Like, there were just some things like, did you ask someone to write this who has not seen the rest of the episodes? This bit and the love square and some of Adrian's reactions in the episode just seemed a little bit out of place, to be honest. It was a bit strange. But how on earth did Marinette knock over her own chair? That didn't quite make sense. So now let's move on to Chloe, and actually I was actually a fan of her telling Adrian how Marinette felt, because Marinette never would have done it on her own. So actually thank you, Chloe, but obviously she didn't do it in a very nice way, and I just loved how everyone just kind of stared at her and was like, what are you on? What? Like, okay, and then how everyone stood up for her. So Marinette actually said something, which I love because Marinette has anxiety like me. If I was in this situation, I know the right thing would be to say something, but whether I could or not would be depending on the anxiety. Then Alia said something, and then Zoe, oh my god, Zoe, she was amazing in this scene. She was great. So then the akumatization, obviously Chloe gets akumatized as a result of her humiliation, and I know probably, like I already seen on Twitter, people complaining about the Akuma being repeated. I know it was slightly different, it was called Soul Destroyer, not Soul Crusher, but the design was largely the same. The only difference really was that she stepped on people and they turned into shoes instead of making her bigger, like in Soul Crusher. But personally, I don't mind Akuma repeats. Usually they do an Akuma repeats when there's something bigger going on in the episode and they want the attention off the Akuma villain. Like, they often still have it in, so they have an excuse for Ladybug and Cat Noir or Scarabella and Kitty Noir, but it's often done so the episode has a focus on something else, which this episode had a massive focus on a lot of other things. So I personally have no problem with Akuma repeats, and again, this Akuma was a bit of comic relief due to how serious the Monarch stuff gets with shoes, singing. I don't know what the writing team were on when they wrote this episode, but alright. And then also in the cafeteria, the protective Adrianette. I love a protective Adrian. Protective Lado, he did amazing. However, that doesn't really add up afterwards. As cute as that was and as cute as I loved him protecting her from Chloe, didn't quite add up afterwards. Then Jo and the Lucky Charm comes down and she's wandering around in the courtyard, and I know Adrian is also in danger, but he doesn't look around for Marinette at all. That would have been my first priority. First of all, as a former superhero. Second of all, the girl I love slash we're kind of sort of dating, she might be my girlfriend sort of situation. And he's just stood there talking to Nino whilst the whole city is collapsing around them and doesn't even think about looking for this girl he just protected up in the cafeteria from an arguably not as much of a danger. You know what I mean? Like, getting turned into a shoe by Chloe, tragic, but you know, I kind of like to be a shoe, versus getting crushed by part of a falling building whilst you're at school in the courtyard. Bit of more of a dangerous thing. I understand he had to make sure he was safe as well, but like, he just didn't seem to care about Marinette, so it's just a bit like, okay, so you only care about her at certain times of the day then, Adrian? So obviously Alia and Zoe go to transform and they get the Miraculouses taken. I was beside myself. It was great. Like I said, like, Gabriel Babes had a really solid plan, and it would have just been strange for Monarch Daddy to fail at that stage. Obviously I'd seen Perfection, so I knew we had to fail, so it wasn't that big of like a deal to me. But I mean, honestly, even if I hadn't seen the rest of the episodes, I'd be like, we're only halfway through the season. He can't win yet. Like, if this was episode 25, this has happened in episode 25, I would have been like, oh boy, maybe, yeah, but you know, it's episode 11, so even if I hadn't seen the other episodes, I don't think I would have been like, oh wow, because we're only halfway through, right? So, yeah, but like I said, brilliant plan. And also Tiki and Plag's plan was awesome with a Lucky Charm, and then Plag, I don't want to say he basically killed himself, but did he kind of? Because Tiki was like, I might never see you again, and Plag's like, no, we will, we can sort this. I understand, like, I got where he was coming from, but like, okay. Alright then. And also just in general, as you all know, I love Kwame interaction, but Tiki and Plag are the two I like to see interact the most, because they're the ones we often don't get to see interact with anyone at all, because they're obviously always with Adrian and Marinette. So I love a good bit of Kwame interaction. That was great. And also Marinette's plan was absolutely amazing, and like how she worked it all out in the bathroom cubicle first. She was very calm. Like, whenever she gets into like her Ladybug headspace, she's always super calm and collected. Like, I feel like the only time she really lost it as Ladybug was right at the end of Strike Back in Adrian's bathroom. Usually when she's Ladybug, she's super duper calm. So that was great. However, one thing I do have to ask, so like the plan was great with the 2 Lucky Charms, her getting changed into, apparently she just like has on standby a full Ladybug Lucky Charm outfit, because why not? Wouldn't, like, Monarch should have recognised her voice. Gabriel knows Marinette. He should recognise her voice. She did nothing to change that. She changed her appearance and she looked like she'd put like some sort of wig on as well, but she did nothing to change her voice. I guess it could have been slightly muffled under the helmet, but at the end of the day, that was, she still did nothing to change her voice. So he should have recognised her, but okay, like, again, like another reason why this isn't a full 10. It's only small things, but I'm like, how, you know, it's just, yeah, maybe it's just because of me. I do think it was a really enjoyable episode, don't get me wrong, but just like tiny things that made it basically not perfect. 10 out of 10 is, in my opinion, for a perfect episode, and this wasn't completely because there were just a few things. But then, oh my god, this isn't a reason why it's not 10 out of 10, but Gabriel's outfit when he does the union with Tiki. No. I wouldn't be seen dead wearing that. You couldn't even bury me in that outfit. Ugh! Disgusting! And also, speaking of the outfits, I made this point in, like, every time I bring up Ephemeral, basically, is that, basically, Shadow Cat Daddy shouldn't have thrown Marinette in the cinema because it doesn't class as fantasy violence because she was dressed as a civilian. However, the fight Marinette and Monarch have does count as fantasy violence since Marinette was dressed up as Ladybug. Like, he threw her to the ground and then threw it into that wall. However, because she wasn't wearing, like, the superhero clothing, she should have been injured though. Like, it was okay to show for children since she did look like Ladybug, so it was okay. Not that it's okay to obviously throw children against walls, but in terms of just like ethically of showing that, because kids often copy violence they see on TV and thinking it's going to be okay, but they're not a superhero, so it's not okay. But Marinette really she shouldn't have been alright, to be honest. Did love the wrestling, but she shouldn't have been okay. You got thrown against a wall. You should have been really injured. She was like, I'm fine, I'll walk it off. No! And then the Resistance came in. I've been waiting for them to do stuff and I've been meaning to make a theory video about them, but also at the same time I'm like, I don't know what to say because you've only been in one episode so far in Illusion. So it was absolutely amazing what they did first with the paint guns. I know he turned invisible, but you could see him with all the paints, or was it even sauce in them? I don't know, because it looked like mustard and ketchup and stuff. So I was like, okay, is this paint or is this sauce? I don't know. And then Rose and was it Julika with Chloe, they're going to turn him into a shoe. So we quickly de-akumatized her. That was like an awesome back and forth. And then Adrian with the earrings, oh my god, and did you see that look Monarch gave to Adrian? It's like, oh, oh! Obviously Gabriel doesn't know that's his dad, but obviously he knows that's his son. He's like, how dare you steal my earrings? It was so good. And he gives them to Ladybug and she reverses everything. And finally she finds out about the rings. I've been saying for ages, when are they gonna find out? This was how, yes, finally. So yeah, how Alia and Marinette are sat in the room afterwards discussing like, well, how did he find out? And I'm like, because the alliance rings. And Marinette's like, I've no idea. And I'm like, yes you do know, because in episode 4 you were wearing Soculin's alliance, you went to fight that Akuma, you forgot to take it off, and then Gabriel babes thought Soculin was Ladybug. You know full well, because at the end of the episode that is the reason why you tell your mum she can have the alliance instead, that you don't want mum. So you do know why. So why did you say you had no clue? Because you do know. So now you've got the rings, you've seen with your own eyes the rings Monarch has, and you know the reason you were caught in episode 4 is because of the alliance, and Alia and Zoe both wear an alliance. You're not stupid, Marinette. This episode showed just how intelligent you truly are. So annoying! I've had like the morning from hell in real life, so I am not okay. I'm taking all the aggression out on my notepad, but I was just like, you know the reason, you know, and I understand you may not put 2 and 2 together immediately, that's fine, but like, come on, please use your brain. I understand for Marinette to finally link those two things together, the rings being transmitted to the Alliance and whoever Monarch is knowing the data from the Alliance, hence why she was caught in episode 4, hence why Alia and Zoe are caught, would ultimately lead her pretty quickly to Gabriel and Tomoe. I understand that, I understand it's something they're probably saving for, you know, episode 21 plus or whatever. It's like a finale thing because it would lead her to the identity of Hawkmoth and whatever, but like, it's just making her look stupid, and this episode showed that she's very much not stupid. This show it goes back and forth with which characters they want to be intelligent and stupid with every single episode, and it does me treeing, I'll be honest with you. So Zoe and Plague were super cute saying their goodbye. As much as I love Cat Noir, I do kind of wish they'd maybe got a couple more episodes together because they were so cute. I loved it so much. I hope they get to talk to each other again, even if only a little bit. They just see each other. I don't know in what context this would happen, but I just thought they were great together. They had an awesome relationship. But I really would have liked to have seen Adrian and Plague reunite. We did kind of see like Marinette and Tiki. Obviously she goes to see Alia at the start of the episode and then Tiki stays in her room presumably right at the end. Obviously I've seen Perfection, so we know Ladybug and Cat Noir are back as Marinette and Adrian. So obviously I know Plague goes back to Adrian, but I would like to have seen like a little scene of them reuniting. It literally only needs to be 20 seconds, even less. That would have been great. But I did really love the Lady Noir ending. I guess that was like the reuniting we got instead. Like, don't get me wrong, Lady Noir is just as important, but I love the relationship between Adrian and Plague and I don't feel it gets enough light in the show often. But the Lady Noir ending was super cute, how they're back together and they're like, yeah, other people can do it, but only one formula works. So like I said, overall a 9 out of 10. I thought it was an amazing episode. The pacing was great, the whole fight was amazing. The song, as much as I hated it and it made me cry out of sheer embarrassment, it did fit the episode because of how serious it gets later on. So as much as I hated it, I also understand why it was in there. But there were just some things not adding up, mainly to do with the love square, which is kind of disappointing me, possibly more so than other people would, because it's basically what I watch the show for. So yeah, but I thought it was a pretty solid episode otherwise. I don't feel okay giving even an 8.5. I feel that's too low, but it wasn't perfect, so I can't give it a 10. So I feel like I'm going to stay at 9. MVP, I think, has to go to Plague. Plague was amazing. His relationship with Zoe, the way that was shown was awesome, and the way he basically sacrificed himself was amazing. But special mentions to Marinette, Adrian and Zoe. They all had amazing moments in this episode. First with Marinette and how she figured it all out in the end. Adrian with getting the earrings back and also protecting Marinette. And then Zoe because I just thought she was great with Chloe in the cafeteria scene. And again because of her relationship with Plague. So there you go, besties. I am exhausted. Like I said, I had the morning from hell. So it's even a surprise I managed to be able to sit down and do a reaction and film this video, but I'm going to try my best to get it edited for you. I am also going to leave a pinned comment about the screaming session, so we held the vote for it. It was earlier this week, yeah, because we did the pretension screaming session. I've already forgotten what episode it was. You all voted for Jubilation, and I am assuming you would like, instead of a Jubilation screaming session, you'd like a Deflagration, I still can't say it, screaming session instead. So I will leave a pinned comment. I already have the meme review scheduled for this Monday, so assuming you want an episode 11 screaming session, I'm never saying that name again, I will get it ready for the Monday afterwards. Screaming sessions just take quite a while to put together. Meme reviews are quite a bit easier to do. So yeah, I'll put that in a pinned comment, and otherwise I'd love to know what all of you think. First of all, thoughts on the song. Did you cry out of embarrassment? Did you enjoy it? Second of all, the love square. Did it make sense to you, or am I just being picky because I'm here for the love square and nothing else really? And also thirdly, the plan in terms of how everything came together. Gabriel's plan, Tiki and Plague's plan, Marinette's plan, the resistance. Did you think it flowed as flawlessly as I did? Or did you think it was bad? And of course, who would you give the MVP to? I've had a lot of people say they give it to Zoe, and don't get me wrong, Zoe was amazing in this episode, but I just feel like Plague. He just went above and beyond to save Adrian and Marinette and all of Paris. I think he did an amazing job. I love Plague. I want more Plague screen time. But anyway, besties, I'd love to know what you think, and as always, please don't leave any leaks in the comments, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!